Christy. So manganese has been listed as a critical mineral by the US government way before the advent of electric vehicles. In fact, closer to the advent of the T model Ford in the early 1900s. And that's because you can't make T model Fords or anything containing steel without manganese. And today, the steel market is predominant in the use of manganese. 95% of all manganese is going into the making of steel, and it's irreplaceable in that particular use. You have a long tail of other uses of manganese, including very small amounts that go into electric vehicle batteries, but that is set to change in ways that I'll explain through this presentation. And Jupiter, as a large producer globally today of manganese, entirely focused on selling into the steel market, is also focused on how that is going to change and how Jupiter can play its part in servicing that new area of demand and obviously drive value from doing so. So Jupiter today is the largest listed pure play manganese miner in the world. We're listed here on the Australian Stock Exchange, and we own half of a very good mine in South Africa called Tshipi. Tshipi is the fourth largest producing manganese mine in the world. It's been going for around about 13 years now and has more than 100 years of mine life remaining. It's a low cost operation. It's profitable and cash generative through the manganese price cycle. There's no debt at the mine, there's no debt at Jupiter, and by virtue of that combination of facts, we as the major shareholder in that mine has enjoyed very good dividends, so much so that, as you can see there on the page, at today's share price, that mine has more than paid off our current market cap, notwithstanding that mine has been going for 13 years and has more than 100 years remaining to go. So that's the value proposition today, and 100% of our revenue today is derived from selling into the steel market. That's a brief overview pictorially of the mine. It's located in the northern cape of South Africa near the Namibian and Botswana border. If you fly over it, it looks like iron ore and manganese country. It looks like the Pilbara for good reason, because it is iron ore and manganese country. In what's called the Kalahari manganese field, a very short section of land where Tshipi is located, you have 3/4 of the world's manganese resource in a stretch of land where the main mines are, including Tshipi, that is only 32 kilometres north to south. So very closely packed with mines, some of which, like Tshipi, have a long way to go. And that's some of the benefit that we and other mines in that area can bring to the battery mineral space, because there's no shortage of manganese in the world, and it's cheaper than some of the other cathode minerals that it would seek to substitute. Jupiter's 5-year strategy is set out on the page there. I've blocked out for the sake of ease 3 of the limbs that aren't associated with what we're talking about today. But we are focused on, in addition to continuing a very good business in producing about 3.4 million tonnes today of ore per annum that is sold into the steel market, and we'll continue doing that, potentially in the future taking some of our byproduct ore and directing that into battery grade manganese. And so this for us is really a value uplift story. And it's something that we and a select other few large manganese producers can actually do, and I think vend a value into the electric vehicle battery space, because we're able to take what's really a waste category of ore that we're producing anyway through our screening process and upgrade that quite cheaply into battery grade manganese relative to either mining new manganese ore from virgin resources and relative to some other cathode minerals. So that's really why we're interested in this space as Jupiter. There is a market entry opportunity, and I'll explain why manganese is going to grow in use in battery vehicles in the future. But because of that growth in demand and almost no supply in that space today, really no manganese ore that's produced from virgin resources today is converted directly into battery grade manganese. So there's a shortage of process supply. Quite nascent demand right now, but that is scheduled to change in ways that I'll give you an overview of in a minute. But you can see there in that heat map, as a result of growing demand and almost no supply today, there will be an undersupplied market in the use of battery-grade manganese. The question about where that opens up, exactly when is the timing, is something that needs to be studied, and you've got a nascent growing market that will be in fits and starts. But we are confident that there will be new demand for battery-grade manganese, and that's what we're looking to target with our strategy. Jupiter has a competitive advantage in this space in a couple of areas, but one of the main ones is what I referred to a moment ago. We can take all that we are producing anyway and stockpiling in quite material quantities and put that through a conversion process to create battery-grade manganese. And that gives us about a 20% OPEX advantage over others that are seeking to mine new manganese ore specifically for the purpose of producing battery-grade manganese. We can take something we're doing anyway that's funded by the steel market and then value upgrade that category of ore. And doing that provides an attractive value upside, and obviously that's the other reason why Jupiter's interested in that space. I'm sure we've spoken about today the slide here that I've also sought to summarise. It is clear that there needs to firstly be a very significant build out of new electric vehicles for all sorts of reasons, and I'll run you through those reasons in a moment, and that looks fairly foreboding, but if you take that 2023 to 2035 step up, it equates to about 27% year on year annual growth rate. And if you look at the chart on the right, two things are clear. This is the growth rate year on year or quarter on quarter in that case of the electric vehicle build out. And you can see that globally that rate has slowed down for all the reasons that I'm sure have been canvassed already today. And it looks like that growth rate is really slowing to very low levels. It is a low level relative to what it was at in that peaking period through 2021. But it's actually at the required run rate. So notwithstanding all of the handbrakes that are emerging for electric vehicle growth, we're at about that 27% growth rate. A lot of that is in China, obviously, and there's lots that needs to be done in order to combat those constraints. But there are the reasons why we believe at Jupiter that this thematic will continue to build out. Apart from government policy that is looking to ensure a greater use of electric vehicles for environmental reasons, there are lots of other cost reasons, health advantages, etc., that go to this thematic towards enhanced electric vehicle usage in the world. And manganese, we think, can play a key role in combating some of those challenges that are there today. Manganese, relative to other battery minerals, is cheaper. It's abundant. You're not going to run out of manganese. It's available from various countries around the world, and it brings energy density in a chemically stable way and in a more cost-efficient way than other battery minerals. And so that's why we can see through top-down data that you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, but also through the discussions that we're having with car makers and midstream manufacturers, battery makers, etc., that there is a strong trend towards cathode chemistries that include manganese, whether you're talking about Chinese LFP type batteries that are moving to introduce manganese and other more Western cathode chemistries, NMC using more manganese and lithium manganese intensive oxide chemistries. The winning chemistries that people are working on contain manganese because of what you can see on the left-hand side of the page there. So for manganese and someone who's already in that space like us looking to upgrade some waste streams of ore, this is quite attractive, and that is why we're playing the long game here. So we have, as part of our strategy there, as I said, a purpose to look at potentially taking some waste streams of ore from Chippy that are being produced today and through our own process some of that into battery-grade manganese. This requires a lot of study, which is underway right now. So we published early last year a scoping study detailing the work that we've done to date. We're now in a pre-feasibility study. I've detailed why Jupiter is interested and what our advantages are. And we're currently in the middle of that pre-feasibility study. So in particular in this space, we're focused on advancing our flow sheet, lowering risk, lowering cost, OPEX and CAPEX. We have a pilot plant that's going to produce batches of material that we can share with customers. The next stage of work is going to be a lot more cost intensive, moving into a definitive feasibility study. And what we're looking to ensure before we move into the cost of that stage is customer offtake. I mentioned this is a nascent and growing area. We are talking to customers that are working on their chemistries and their forecast manganese usage as a result of that in the coming years. We need to see a critical scale to underpin our desired scale of plant, which will be about 100,000 tonnes per annum. And what we're looking to do is approach this like an infrastructure project, and we think that that's the sensible way to come at it. Government grants are nice, but what we really need to see is customers standing behind their desired volume. It's not for Jupiter as an investor or any of our co-investors to take that risk. These projects, if the volume is there, has quite nice payback, which is obviously why we're interested in it. But if you're investing all of that fixed capital against an uncertain volume or price, it looks far less attractive. So you can see there, for those familiar with infrastructure business models, something that should look quite familiar: incorporation of a special purpose vehicle that will fund and operate the plant. Jupiter will be a supplier of material and an investor in that project alongside other forms of capital. If we can get a off-take of 5 to 7 years, that will be sufficient to fund the risk capital payback period, and then you're rolling. At some point, these markets will be deep enough to be able to take risk on the volume of that market, but there's this initial stage which I think everyone is looking to be able to overcome in order to have the confidence to invest capital. And that's why we're approaching it in that way. So where we see the timeline there that we've provided in our recent strategic update, this PFS period, which we have kind of square bracketed for this year, will actually be defined not by time, but by when we have confidence to move into that DFS stage. We are confident that the business model works. We are confident that we can produce compliant material. We've already done that from chippy low-grade ore, and making what we think are reasonable assumptions when the volume in this market is there. The economics look very attractive, which is obviously why we're proceeding. But we do think it is prudent and necessary to ensure that market maturity catches up, so that when these customers can actually forecast their volume with confidence and stand behind it with commitment, we'll be ready to move into stages of execution. So Jupiter today is a company that's already very successful, and we're focused entirely on the steel market. Chippy's a great mine, established, steady state, already one of the largest producing manganese mines, and incumbent in that market of producing manganese for steel production. We have a whole set of strategies, and the bulk of Jupiter's strategy is actually about doing more of that. Doing more of that in a more efficient way, focusing on logistics in South Africa, organically increasing our volume at the right time from Chippy, which we're able to do, looking at consolidation within South Africa and releasing value from that particular strategy, and doing all of that in a way that reflects the great ESG story that's been executed at Chippy already, doing more of that as we proceed through that growth. What we've talked about today is the fourth limb of that strategy, and that's really also about value upgrading what we're doing already and making use of material that we're already producing that's actually ideally suited to producing battery-grade manganese. And that is going to require us to really be thoughtful and also confident with conviction that that market is going to be there at the end of the day, and that's what we're setting about doing right now, approaching the study work so that we're ticking off all of the technical criteria, knowing how we will do this, but really what we're most focused on is the customer markets and ensuring the customers that we're talking to can stand behind an offtake that will allow us to wrap that investment in a manner that's infrastructure-like, and therefore de-risk that so that we can get at those attractive value upside economics. I've left enough time for questions for the first time in my life, Christy, so if anyone has any, happy to dive in.